Welcome to the FLFDN Virtual Roundtable for March 2019. Today we're joined by Judith Ross-Bernstein, Assistant Director for the Center for Faculty Excellence at Ithaca College, and Gena Merliss, Coordinator of the Teaching and Creativity Center at Monroe Community College. The session that they're facilitating today is Beyond the One-Off Faculty Orientation, Creating a New Faculty Series. Now, with that, I give it over to Judith and Gena.
Yeah, hi everybody. I'm going to start. It's good to see you. As Jeremiah said, my name is Judith, and I'm here in Ithaca. And you'll see Gena, wave Gena. She's in Rochester, and we'd like to know, we'd like to welcome you and ask you to tell us what brings you to this meeting. So why don't you start, Jason?
All right, I can unmute myself. So I'm new to my role as Assistant Director for Instructional Technology here at University of Rochester. And I'm interested in building out a program that supports faculty and would help them develop, at least with respect to knowledge, events and programs that would appeal to faculty development.
Okay,
so
thanks.
I'm here to learn more about that.
Hi, Bob. What can you tell us about why you're at this meeting?
Hi, I'm the Interim Director of the Center for Excellence in Learning and Teaching at Brockport. And so faculty orientation has been in flux the last few years, and we are just open to different possibilities for continuing or revamping we do to supporting faculty.
Okay, thanks, Bob. Jeremiah and Gena and everyone, was that audio a little warped from
Yes.
Bob? Yeah.
It was. I think, Bob, you might be on a slow network connection.
Okay. Lisa, can you come in and tell us what brings you to this meeting?
Sure. I am at the University of Rochester also with Jason, and I've been in this position for a long time, and I'm always looking for new ideas and new ways to get faculty to attend things and promote use of technology and just good teaching practices. So that's why I'm here.
Okay, lovely. Welcome, nice small group.
Judith, we have one more.
Yes?
Is it Dolce?
Hi, can you hear me?
Okay. Yes.
Joseph Doles. I'm here with Becky Pat. We are both the instructional designers at SUNY Geneseo. I'm here again looking for ideas to help engage our faculty and keep them engaged. Becky?
And I hate to use the been said, right? But I feel like we're all here for really similar reasons. Really interested to hear what other colleagues are doing. And oftentimes, a lot of our great ideas come from the follow-up conversations. So excited about those as well.
Okay, great. Thanks. Are we ready to move on, Gena, then?
Yep.
Okay.
So can everybody see the screen sharing? I mean, I'm sorry, the link that I posted, or should I post it again?
It's in the chat.
But if people join late, they might not be able to see it. Let me just do one more time.
Okay.
Okay.
So what we've got in the chat is a Google Doc. And what we'd like to do is just very quickly brainstorm what experiences you have of new faculty orientation or new faculty programming. So if you'll go to that Google Doc, you'll see where you can just type in your ideas around what new faculty need, what does your orientation currently accomplish, how do you do it, what works well, and what are the gaps. So we'll just have you type into the Google Doc now, take 2 or 3 minutes to think this through and type in, and then we're going to take a look at it together. Okay? Does everybody have the Google Doc? Yep, I see already.
And I see Jenna just came on. Jenna, I just posted where where everybody's typing right now. Do you see it in the chat? Good. Looks like the cursors have stopped. Any last thoughts? Okay, so as we talk about these next steps, if you come up with something else, go ahead and write it right in. So what do you notice here? And I'm going to suggest that we unmute ourselves. There aren't that many people, and let's just see if we can throw out what we notice.
I think I believe we've talked about this before, but in the gaps, getting faculty to attend or offering it at a time when they're able to attend, right? So and I think we've talked about that before, is we've had a session on how do we encourage faculty to be part of these different workshops that are being offered. There's ones that are maybe the required ones. I think Judith will probably talk about the one that they've put together here on campus. But then following up with them when it becomes more optional, or when you get random ones that come in throughout the semester, how do you meet with them and get them onboarded? So I definitely see that as a common gap that I hear from a lot of schools.
We've tried at Brockport, I hope you can hear me. This is Bob from Brockport College. I think my audio problems are fixed. So we've tried a couple different approaches. For several years, we essentially ran a faculty learning community that was required for first year tenure track faculty members. The nightmare, though, was scheduling a time when they all could meet, like every other week, because of their teaching schedules. So then just this last year, instead of trying to get people to meet throughout the semester, we had a single day-long orientation the week before the semester began, where we brought in representatives from different offices across campus to kind of introduce people to things that they would need to know. And then we had a half-day meeting at the end of the fall semester. But the day-long workshop was grueling and overwhelming for a lot of faculty. And many of them said that by 2 o'clock in the afternoon, they couldn't retain anything they were getting. And so the gap is essentially, if we try to do it all at once, everybody can attend, but then it's too much of an information dump. And if we try to space it out throughout the semester, then it's very difficult to coordinate schedules and get people to all be able to attend at the same time.
Thank you. Steve, welcome, first of all. Second of all, do you have the link to the Google Doc? I'm putting it in the chat. This is where we are. What else? Anything else that we notice?
Something that I'm noticing is that I wonder the way in which different institutions are organized. So for instance, when I see like ID and accessibility HR for Title IX, so some of our HR group may do some of that. So I see a difference there, that we can refer them, but I think that our HR does take care of some of that. That's one thing that I'm noticing.
Yeah, I wrote those, and that's because we are currently in the one-off new faculty orientation model. There's a lot of stakeholders who, even if that doesn't represent the entire benefits orientation, they want to have a little bit of 15 to 20 minutes on the agenda, to get on that one shining opportunity to address all the faculty at once.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
One thing that I'm noticing is missing about what new faculty need, which is true on our campus at MCC, but I wonder if it's true on yours. We feel like faculty need more experience and learning about how to teach. That people come in with very, very strong academic backgrounds or technical backgrounds, but not necessarily experience in teaching. There are a lot of nods. I'm going to put that in.
Okay.
Yep, I agree.
Another thing that's not on the list, Gena, since you're typing, is I think faculty are very strong in their content area. The how to teach is one, and then I think something that's a big need is how to teach in a diverse audience. So, and I mean diverse in the broadest sense. So, background, experience, culture, race, all of those, but also preparedness, motivation. So, I mean diverse in broadly. So I think how to teach and how to diversify in their teaching might be another piece. I could say, another word for that could be inclusive pedagogy, or it could be, oops, sorry, that's me, inclusive excellence. But I'm just going to say I'm just going to say for this, how to diversify teaching.
Hi guys, this is Anne Marie from
I see. Okay, thank you.
You guys hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Sorry, I'm late. Cheryl Herklotz and I, we work in faculty development here and partner with Jeremiah and his team on coordinating new faculty orientation and speaking to the diversity in teaching. We have invited our new director of diversity, and he is going to be doing a mini presentation at our orientation next August on teaching diversity in the classroom.
Great.
It's a new component that we're adding, and he's got a whole slew of things he's interested in doing around teaching with diversity for our faculty.
I'm just going to chime in. So I forgot to say, so I'm Jenna and I'm from Ithaca College. One of the other big things is the UDL as part of that teaching, right? So how when they're putting together their content in the LMS, what does that look like? A lot of them are not familiar with UDL from that standpoint.
I'm going to say in face-to-face as well as online. That's great. Okay.
If any of you have seen a recent Faculty Focus booklet report on diversity in the classroom, I can post it here if you haven't seen it.
Great, that'd be great.
Whoops, hold on. I gotta upload it, I guess. Okay, yeah, I'll do that while you continue the discussion.
Okay. Hey, Jenna, I see in the chat that you said I like to refer to TPACK. Can you say what that is?
So TPACK is a model where it's, I think it's 3 bubbles. I'm trying to imagine it right now, but it's you have the experience with the pedagogy, or technology is T, knowledge and experience, and pedagogy, which is P, C, which is your content knowledge. So your T, P, and C, and I think A is technically shortened, but it's all about the knowledge. And you have your technology knowledge, your pedagogy knowledge, and your content knowledge. And so in my years of coaching, I wouldn't be able to go in and I can't tell somebody, you know, the content for a history course or a science course. That's not my expertise, but I do have the pedagogy and I have the technology. So I have that knowledge. So bringing that together and doing that coaching experience with them and working through with them and helping them to say, yes, this is a great way you can present your content. There's lots of great resources out there on TPACK and what that looks like, and how everybody comes in with a different strength in each area.
Great, thank you. Are there any last things that people would like to share about what we've just about this brainstorm? Anything else they notice?
I think that piece about scratches the surface and no depth, and I'm making the assumption that we would prefer to get at some depth, but it's very hard in these, you know, time is an issue. Full day exhaustion. I thought that was a good point for those of us who have gone through a full day with the faculty and what that looks like and so on and so forth. So I think these are good dilemmas, but also something to think about.
One of the things that we've found based on our feedback that we've collected, and as well as a recent survey we did to the past 3 cohorts of faculty, is that they really welcome the chance to network with each other and collaborate and have some social aspect to the orientation program, which we have built in over the years and will continue to do. In fact, we've removed some presentations that are delivered over lunchtime so that the faculty do have a chance to just sit and chat and talk and make connections. And that seems to be working well.
Great.
Yeah, I think, Gena, that's a great lead in for me to
please
start just sharing a little bit about we have a full day, and actually because things have changed, we have a half day next year. So I think it's going to always be an evolving process of what we can offer. But typically, to Anne, what you said, we start our, we went from an orientation where we were doing a lot of information giving to doing a lot more modeling teaching and inclusive teaching. So we always start with community building, and we have the faculty get up and talk to one another. And we actually have a morning of that with reflection on why we're doing that, why the need to build community in your classroom. And we also bring in, we have a faculty that left here who's really talented as a facilitator around inclusive pedagogy. So she's been, in the last 2 years, she's been coming up and working with us around those community building exercises and really digging deep into that reflection on why you would need to do that with a perspective coming from the perspective of inclusion and diversity. In the afternoon, we offer breakout sessions that they like. Jenna's one of them around the real need for the LMS orientation. We use Sakai on our campus, but we also have people, faculty offering what to do on the first day, how to get off to a good start. We have people who do guiding a good discussion, how to guide a good discussion, how to use technology to build community before the students get in. So there's these breakouts around some of these sessions. We have very active librarians, and they're divided by school. And so our librarians also run a session on helping the students to be effective users of, critical users of materials. So, and all the options that they have. So that's what we do for the day. And I always question that just by what you're saying. I find that by the end of the day, they're pretty much fried. And it's a lot in one day. And I would agree with Anne, the networking is the most important thing. And it always happens at the end of the day. They will say, can we start a list? Can we start a list so we can keep in touch with each other, which is perfect. And I love that. But I also know that that list falls apart as soon as they go nose to the grindstone, that it doesn't continue. So one of the things I'm thinking about is trying to do more ongoing sessions and reflective practice groups in smaller bits. Since I'm mandated for a half day, I may think of something different. But I know that one thing I wanted to share was our year-long Early Career Excellence Institute. So that's a, I think that's like a signature program that early career come in. So not in the first semester, but typically second semester, or they're mixed in with people who have been teaching, I would say 5 years or less. And it's usually about a group of 15, and we use the work of DFINC to start us off and talk about backward design. And so we have a full meeting in the fall, a full meeting in May, and we meet every other week for a year, and there's a stipend to that, which I think is helpful because it's time consuming. And there are assignments that they have to complete before they come. So we read, and then we move into a consultancy format, which is something that Gena and I have been talking about lately. These are protocols that they use to engage with one another about collaborative problem solving. And this is when I feel, do you do it what works well? I would say probably in my job what works well is when they're really engaged and go deeply into the weeds about their, they have to propose a dilemma. And so the group, as they're in small groups now, 6 to 8, they work through a problem-solving protocol, like an order of how to hear it, how to listen, how to ask questions, how to talk about it with one another, and everybody speaks. So it's also a model of equity and democracy in the way that it works. And the feedback, so now we've been doing this for 5 years or so, is that in these consultancies is where they learn the most, is just in the real grappling with problems together. So the end result of that is that the faculty offer something up to the broader Ithaca community, like a blog or an interview, and we post this on our blog or our website.
Judith, can you just say who your population is that come to this institute?
Yeah, the population, do you mean like what disciplines come, or?
It's open to adjunct faculty, full-time faculty, right?
Everyone. So we've had a big change here in our offering. We had contract negotiations with our contingent faculty. So everything we do is open to everyone now. That's by contract. So everyone can apply. And the application for this is it asks you what are your course dilemmas. So we're really looking at where people are in their thinking about what their dilemmas are, and they're judged by our staff, and we think about who would be a good mix and who's ready to come in and join this group. So what is their commitment? What is their dilemma? So yeah, and everyone can apply, and we do have contingent. We have everyone. We have tenured track. We have non-tenured track. We have contingent faculty in this.
Great.
Okay. Gena?
Should we take a break? Does anybody have questions for Judith? My question is, how much is the stipend?
The stipend is $1,500.
And how many people do you have per year?
15.
And do you have more than 15 applicants each year?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, this year we didn't, but sometimes we've had as many as 18 and as little as 11. So this year we have 11. We have 11 in the group. So I want to say that that stipend is in 3 parts. So there's an option that if it's not a good fit, they get to leave and they don't get the full sum. But if they've stayed the first part, it's 3 parts of the payment. So it's 3 $500 payments. And sometimes there are circumstances where people have to leave, and that's fine. So we wanted to give flexibility and not give all the money at once.
Okay, thanks. Any other questions before I go? Okay. And for people who came in late, I'm Gena Merliss from Monroe Community College in Rochester. So we have a mandatory first and second year new faculty series. It's mandatory for all full-time faculty in the first year and just for tenure track faculty in the second year. And these have been going on for, I don't know how long, but at least 20 years. So it's been a part of it's a condition of our hire. It's not in our contract, but it's an expectation when we sign our contract that we're going to participate in 2 years of faculty development. So when I started about 11 years ago, the first year faculty series was meeting all the different people on campus, sort of what somebody posted about understanding about campus culture a little bit of like what's here. So advising came in. I don't even remember. It was not memorable. I didn't really form a cohort, and it didn't do anything with my teaching. And so our center has been trying to revamp it for many years, and it moved into something more. I think somebody mentioned it, where there were a bunch of workshops which were really useful for faculty. And then most recently, what we're doing is almost exactly like what Judith is doing, where we use backwards design. We read Fink's book together, and our first year faculty are responsible for redesigning something. We originally said you have to redesign a whole unit. We thought that a course was going to be too much for them while they're teaching in their first year, but we sort of realized that even a unit was overwhelming for some people. And although we know integrated course design is about thinking about the whole course, what we really wanted people to do was think about one class period, making sure that they have objectives, making sure that they're assessing student learning, ideally getting into some sort of active learning for their learning activities. And so that's sort of the capstone, is that they are able to produce some sort of class lecture or class assignment, but not assignment, one class meeting where they have an agenda for that day of including backwards design. We have varied success with that, because a lot of people come in feeling like, well, I'm given my curriculum, I have to do exactly what everybody is doing in my department, and there isn't space or time for that. So that's sort of our next area that we need to work in, is hopefully getting some more observations and using our consultants, and we have mentors that maybe they could be working with people one-on-one to help them apply what they're learning. Because a lot of times they're in our sessions and they feel like, oh, what I'm learning is really useful, I want to do this, but, and then there's whatever reason. There were a couple of things I thought were useful. to share based on what you'd said. That one about limiting time and not being able to get people where they are. One thing that we do for that, besides making it mandatory, is that we choose our dates the year before, and I send them out to all of the chairs in March. And the chairs are expected to help their new faculty who come in clear their schedules. And it's always on Friday afternoons from 3 until 5. So departments take care of that, and they either don't assign those new faculty courses at that time, or they find coverage for them. We've had departments do both of those things. In terms of networking, somebody else put this up here as well. About the faculty success series, about the power reception, where new faculty meet academic leaders. For the past couple of years, our provost has been hosting our first and second year series at her house at the end of the year, which has been really a nice way to, you know, break down some of the barriers, not just in the silos in our departments and divisions, but between faculty and administration, which I don't know if you guys are aware, but MCC has some current issues with our divisions between faculty and administration. So that's actually really helpful for us. We also do what Judith was talking about, where in the spring of our first year, we have all of our folks have a chance to choose a dilemma from their class, and then we use our reflective practice protocols to help them develop reflective practice and give each other feedback. A couple of years ago, we made the whole first year series just that. Everybody bring a dilemma. We're going to talk about it. We're going to use some structured conversations to have those to give you feedback. And what we found was, because people had very limited experiences with teaching, sometimes their dilemmas didn't have a lot of depth in them. And so that's why we started to introduce the backwards design piece, so that people had more information that they could try out. And then their dilemmas actually have been very much more in depth. I'm going to stop for a minute because people look like their eyes are a little bit glazed over. Do you have any questions or any directions that you might be interested in hearing a little more about? Nope.
I do, Gena, actually. I wondered, you know, this has been a topic of conversation with some other colleagues about, they have to change something, you know, like it's so big it's overwhelming to redesign a course. And another colleague of mine felt that when he was doing just what we're talking about, is that he didn't see enough change. So he finally drilled down and said he wanted to do an assignment institute, you know, change assignments, just to start at the small, like at a very micro level. So I like this idea. You have to redesign something like one class period, and that really gives it a good focus. And then I wondered, do they share out what they change, or is that too much to ask? Because I felt like, where do they take what they've done and just put it out into the community? That was the idea of a blog, you know, having a teaching and learning blog. It's a lot of work to keep up a teaching and learning blog, but I thought that if faculty speak in this way on a blog, it could be shared out about the change. And that sort of adds to the teaching narrative of our culture. Do they share out at all, or?
They share out amongst themselves as a part of their cohort building. So some of their community building is, we'll start a meeting with, you know, talk about the objectives that you're thinking about for this one class. What are the ones that are the hardest to achieve? Which are the ones that are the non-content driven ones? So we try and frame some of the questions using backwards design. Mm-hmm. We do a protocol called the what, so what, now what, where when that's really good for when people are they're in a draft. So they have a chance to say, okay, here's as far as I've gotten so far, just a synopsis of it. Here's where I think I am, and here's why I think that this is a good idea. And then people give them feedback on that, and then they say, okay, and here's what I'm going to do based on what your feedback was. So one of the issues that I've found is, like currently, we have somebody who is an engineer. We have somebody who is in mechatronics. We have somebody who is in ESL, and a paramedic. And their content is so different that it's hard to communicate what it is that they're changing. So we do try and have them share out, but sometimes they run into some obstacles of wanting to get feedback on things, and they would really like more specific feedback than we're able to give them. In our second year, we focus more on tenure and engaging in the college community. We do that in the spring semester, but in the fall, we're reading Small Teaching, or we read Small Teaching together, which was really awesome. They loved that. And that was more simple than backwards design, because we would read a chapter, they would say, okay, I love this part, I'm gonna try and apply it. And then each time they would come back and say, here's what I applied, here's how it went. And those were way more general, so people could really talk across discipline. That was actually much easier.
Do people have other texts like Gena has had for new faculty that were so exciting? I mean, she said that really works well. So Small Teaching, that's a great idea. Other things that people read with their faculty that you love?
Well, we tried a similar, I guess this was in the spirit of change one small thing in your course. And we used learning assessment techniques as the handbook for that.
Yeah.
This is by Barkley and Major. And in that, I think one of the challenges was everybody's individual needs are so particular.
Right.
So it was encouraging to hear Gena kind of describing how colleagues could share across disciplines and still kind of generalize and benefit from hearing each other's particular experience.
Gena, I found in that consultancy, so let's say one of the dilemmas is this is a pretty common dilemma, is that faculty will say, I present something, the students have an activity and they work through it, but then I always run out of time to A, reflect on what we did, B, close the loop. So they haven't brought it back to where they wanted to. So maybe in a concept or a theory. And so this language, closing the loop, got sort of put out in our consultancy. And I found it interesting in 1 year where computer science and a music professor, or computer science, and maybe it was physical education, I forget who it was, but that is closing the loop is like a cross-disciplinary, people, you know, having that time for really pulling it together, really solidifying the point of the activity, the point of where they're going next. So I really like the consultancy for that, and that is where they see that they have very similar dilemmas, like closing the loop.
We actually had that experience last week, because our mechatronics professor presented a lesson plan, and he said, this is the point, this is what I do, this is the point where some students take off and are amazing, and there's always 1 or 2 students who have no idea what they're doing, and what am I missing? And I am telling you, I was looking at what the content is, and I had no idea what it meant, like at all. And there were some other people in the room, luckily, who did, but in ESL, our ESL faculty sort of voiced what I'd been feeling, which was, wow, how am I going to give this person feedback? And then all of a sudden she turned it to, okay, let me look at actually the way that he's presenting this and the language that he's using. And so her way of giving feedback was very different from the engineer, who really did understand all of the content of what he was presenting. So the person who got feedback ended up taking stuff from both of those people. That was really useful.
I had another question to you, Gena, about the mandatory nature of the 2 years. I mean, that's so interesting to me. And you moved into that, right? I mean, you came in and it was there before.
Yeah. When I started as a faculty member, it was in place.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So like, how did that happen?
I guess, or I mean, you sort of alluded to people don't have time for this, you know, that they feel they don't have time. But give me a nice range of how you think that. Does that? Would you, if you were to do that again, would you do that? I don't even know what I'm asking. What's the question? I always wonder about making people do something like this kind of change, and is really dependent on motivation. So if you're made to do it, and I just think about the rugged individual nature of our faculty and being made to do anything here. So
yeah, a lot of the reports that I write sort of start with, although it is a mandatory series, the feedback that we get is really positive. And so people, I would absolutely keep it as mandatory because nobody would do it otherwise. And we feel good if people show up grumbling that they have to be there, which happens every single time for 2 years. But leave at the end saying, okay, that was totally worth my time. I'm glad that I showed up. So I think that it's our job as the facilitators to make sure that it feels like a worthwhile experience. And we really do have a separation. Our administration is in charge of making a decision. So sometimes people will send me an email, I can't come. And I just say, contact our vice president and work that out up there. I'm responsible for the program and making sure the program is good. And whatever they say, I'm fine with that. You're fine with it. You know, doesn't matter. It's not my responsibility. So I feel lucky also about that, because it would be a weird position to be in, to be the enforcer. I feel like a lot of our roles, we're not the people who are assessing and evaluating.
Right. We're not in supervisory capacity otherwise.
And shouldn't be.
No. That's a conflict of interest, I think.
We did get something on our chat from Jenna about the book, The Pedagogy of the 21st Century by Draves and Coates.
Yeah, so Draves and Coates they've written several different books. The one that this is The Pedagogy of the 21st Century. And all of their books talk about best practices, teaching. They have several that are related to teaching online. They have one that's called 9 Shift, which gets you thinking about shifting teaching, your teaching methodologies. But this one really talks about looking at your curriculum, looking at your school. There's a part where it asks you to reflect on the buildings, the location. So this one is dated 2011, but I don't know if they've updated the book, but this is one that we referred to a lot and worked with our faculty at my previous institution in Wisconsin. The second one is one that's recently been brought to my attention. Spaces of Teaching and Learning. I haven't even cracked this book open yet. It still even has like the fresh sound on it. But this one was also recommended to me and I don't know where it came from. I don't know if Judith, if this was one that we were talking about at one point when we were talking about, because we're talking about like learning spaces here, and this one talks about spaces and learning spaces. So those are just a couple of books that people might want be interested in taking a look at.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm. So can I jump in a second? I'm glad you brought up these books, because at our new faculty orientations in the fall, we give them a free gift, and we were thinking about going back to the book idea to give them a book. Is there one book you would recommend for faculty?
I'm all about small teaching right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, people are literally showing up in that series, not saying, oh, I hate being here anymore. I love this book. That's what they want to say.
$19. Okay. That's good to know. And one of the books we gave out was by the same author, James Lang, several years ago, but we thought we would give them something useful rather than another umbrella or a coffee mug, something they could use to hit the ground running teaching.
Great idea.
I'm trying to think of the book by Shakil Choudhury. I'm forgetting the name. Hang on, I'm gonna look it up. I've run book groups with faculty, and I have always gotten a good response to his book. Hang on, I'm going to.
Would you mind entering the book titles here too, Jenna? The ones you mentioned?
Yes, they're in the area of what works.
Oh, okay.
What works? Okay, so this is Deep Diversity, Overcoming Us versus Them. This is a very accessible book on diversity, and I've had people really enter into this dialogue much more easily than other books that I've used. Deep Diversity. Shakil, Shakil, Choudhury.
Mm-hmm.
Choudhury.
What's the name of it again?
It's called Deep Diversity, Overcoming Us versus Them. Anyone else with a good read for new faculty?
We did the Learning How to Learn Coursera course as our team at Binghamton.
Oh, how was that?
That, I mean, some folks didn't get into it, but I mean, the course itself, just getting into, seeing how to, it's learner-centered more than instructor-centered, but it's good to give faculty an idea of what if you could chunk up your content a little more and make it easier for students to see, give them a model of here is a chunk of information. Work with this. Okay, now we're going to take about here is a chunk of information, and just getting students into that mindset of how to break it up for themselves in a way that works for them.
I had to turn around and grab something off my bookshelf. I'll give you this guy, What the Best College Teachers Do. I will say I think I like small teaching better, but this is also worth your time. And I'll add that to the chat.
Okay.
And just as another thing that we had success with our new faculty, I realize most campuses can't do it, and I'm not sure my current one can, but a little wine goes a long way. And specifically at the end of the first semester, we invited all of the new faculty back during finals week for an end of semester mixer. And when you mention there's wine at that, and there wasn't wine previously, that tends to draw them out. But what our office got to do was say, so, how'd your first semester go? And then we could take note of what did they have problems with? What did they have trouble finding? And then we could make sure that got into the next set of orientation because it was fresh on their minds. And we were also right there to answer and say, oh gosh, maybe you could go and talk to this person. Here, let me send you an email about this right afterwards. But it's something where you're engaging with them, and there's the social lubricant aspect. But they're also they're a bit more relaxed at that point. So
we do something similar with coffee, not wine, at the end of the semester, faculty recognition, and it's really an opportunity for them to socialize and network and just chat about how the semester went. But probably wine would draw more people. But we've had a good turnout, actually. I mean, it's odd to see over 100 faculty gather for something like that, and that's what we've been getting.
Wow.
So Gena, we've got about 10 more minutes left, and I wondered if we could ask you to, at the end of this meeting, if you could think about something that you're taking away from our dialogue. It could be action steps or where you might go for support, or whatever you're bringing from this conversation. Are there some things you're thinking about now?
I'm thinking I have a lot more, many more books I need to get and read. I have a nice long summer reading list here.
Okay.
I'm going to look into seeing if we can get some more consultants involved with our first year folks. We've sort of offered them up, but one person has taken us up on getting somebody to observe their class. And I think that's a missed opportunity. I'd like to make that happen.
Do you have like an observation week program? We have one in the spring and one in the fall.
That's cool. We just had our first one.
Okay. Yeah, that's been successful. The number of faculty who've been willing to open their stuff up to both people from our Center for Excellence in Teaching and Learning and just staff in general. They want to observe a course. It's increased year over year. The number of people who are willing to do this has gone up. And you're encouraged to use a forum and offer them feedback. And then there's a reception with a lunch where you can be social and mingle and talk about this stuff. And that's been successful here.
It's a good idea. Jason, do you ask your new faculty to open up their classrooms?
I don't actually run that. That's done through our CETL organization, but I do believe that some of the folks who were being observed this year were newer, if not their first time out. There were definitely some newer folks who were on that list. And I know that when I go, I offer them a wide variety of feedback, not just about teaching of that day, but I can sit in the room and say, if you knew about this tool, I could help you with. I can, offer them a variety of our services, but then I give them obviously general feedback on what I saw as well.
Jason, we have just done the observation days, and I thought it went pretty well, but I felt I liked the idea about a reception and a lunch afterwards, because I definitely felt that people wanted to talk to their faculty, the person they observed after. And I had a couple of the faculty say they would host a conversation, but it didn't line up in schedule, that people would observe them and then they couldn't come when they were hosting a discussion. Do you have other ways to make the observation days deeper than the reception and the lunch? I just couldn't. I'm sitting with that now.
Well, I wonder if you couldn't do it with an event like this. If you couldn't make the lunch, you could come to a Zoom thing. Certainly, I like the idea of wine and cheese even better than lunch. But if everybody's schedule is murder, so maybe it's a case where if they are really interested in getting that feedback, I'm surprised how many faculty members actually don't know about Zoom. They just don't know, or they're using maybe a lesser tool like Skype or something like that. But something like this could help to at least offer a forum where, even if it were, imagine if there were, if this many folks who were around this screen were people who couldn't make the reception but just wanted to have a conversation like we're having here. I mean, all these books and feedback and whatnot, a lot of good's going to come out of this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay.
I know also comfort of having your class evaluated. It varies everywhere. I mean, at Binghamton, It was we had to tell them, look, this is a confidential service unless you choose to open it up. You know, when we're coming in evaluating your class, that's going to be between you and us, and that's it. If you want to share this with someone else, you can. We're happy to do that, but by default, this is just feedback for you. And they were still really twitchy about it.
So I want to clarify that when we did this the last time, we made a huge point to talk about observation as a tool for reflection, that it wasn't at all, and I gave observation guidelines and what the people who were observing could think about their own practice. So it was not at all, because on our campus, observation does mean, it means critical feedback, but that wasn't, they were there to get ideas about their own practice. So that was, I did 2 meetings in advance for the people who signed up to talk about observation as a tool, as like a mirror. What do you see and what does that mean to your own practice? So I didn't actually want them giving feedback to the faculty they observed, because the faculty weren't asking for feedback. They were just being magnanimous and generous and opening up their classroom for ideas. And so I think that that's another effort that I have to double down on for the next time, is to make the purpose clear. The feedback on it was very good from both the participants and the faculty. I wanted to make sure that they were comfortable with people observing them for that purpose. I think we're heading into the closeout zone, Gena.
I do too. Any last thoughts?
Well, certainly, I think we're all in the same boat. So if we keep sharing ideas about this, I think we'll continue to grow, which is great.
Right, absolutely.
I still have another 4 months before my first new faculty orientation to arrange. So I'm taking these ideas and we'll see what we get. But I mean, I may have all of 2 new faculty to work with. So.
Steve, where are you now?
I'm at New York Chiropractic College right now. So all of our faculty are practicing doctors and not necessarily educators.
Yeah.
Or the bulk of them. I mean, we have the foundational courses. They can come out of any kind of background. And most of the more recent ones have been an academic background. So for example, one of our anatomy instructors was, her PhD is in anthropology. So she teaches bones. So she's well versed with teaching because she was doing that back in her grad program. But as far as the instructors who went out, became chiropractors, and then came back to become teachers, they're the ones we're going to need to work with.
Well, I want to thank our facilitators, Judith and Gena. This has been a really stimulating discussion, and I think we've all come away with some new things to read and new things to think about, maybe new programs to propose at our own institutions. So thank you very much.
Thanks for setting it up, Jeremiah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.